Today's video is sponsored by Native Sons Goods, makers of the most finely crafted, heirloom quality guitar bag and camera straps on planet Earth. Native Sons are made from the finest hand-woven materials right here in the USA. They come in 2 or 3 inch widths and are fully customizable so you can play in style. Unlike other manufacturers, Native Sons straps are handmade one at a time with impeccable attention to detail. They are both riveted and sewn so they'll last multiple lifetimes. Treat yourself to a Native Sons Goods strap. The best part is, they come already gift wrapped. So I was outside a minute ago and my neighbor came up to me and he was like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" No, had heard something. I was sitting inside the house and I'd heard this loud crash and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was somebody moving their trash can. But no, it turns out he drove his car through his own garage. So he said he was back up here and he has a lot on his mind. He's selling the house actually too. He's almost about to close on this house. And he was thinking about something else and he got out without putting it in park and it started rolling forward and it went through the entire garage. So it went through the door and out the back. But check this out. So it's like knocked that support off. His garage door, obviously, it's still got tension on the springs. So that's going to be a danger.
Oh my god.
Look.
Did he just like get out and the car just kept going?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't think he took out the neighbor's fence. See, they just put this fence up too, like just not even that long ago. So. Oh man, that's great.
Hey y'all, it is Shitpost Friday.
What's up, dudes and dudettes? Brad the Guitarologist here, in what I guess you could describe as a bit of a Shitpost Friday return here. We're gonna get to some news. We're also gonna get to some other oddball stuff you guys might enjoy, so definitely stick around. And now, it just seems like every time I look at news that's supposed to be guitar related, every bit of it now is political as well. So you can't blame me for the news. I report on the things that are interesting. If I tried to report on things that were somebody's guitar release or their new, model or something like that, it would get boring as hell. But the stuff that's interesting actually always tends toward the political side. But here we have the new Secretary of State. That is, if Biden ends up pulling it out, which I can't even say that he won't pull it out now because YouTube will actually remove my channel from the platform. You can't question status quo. If they decide that they don't want you asking any questions, then you're just not going to be asking any questions. They'll just kick you right off. Forget about Section 230 of the Communications Act. Forget about all that stuff. They're publishers at this point. YouTube is a publisher and an editor. They are not a free platform. So I will probably be looking for an alternative at some point. You guys should also look for alternatives where you would like to spend your time and start dedicating your time. If you give a shit at all about free speech, you definitely should do that. But here we have Tony Blinken, courtly guitar aficionado with interventionist streak. It sounds so nice, doesn't it, almost? He's so courtly. That must be code for warmongering beltway piece of garbage. If this bunch gets into office, if this is the way we're headed, within 18 months, we're going to be at a war in the country Syria. You have guys like this to blame, and some of you will have yourselves to blame. So here we are, friends. It's just me and you, alone, in the wilderness. Speaking of wilderness, wood shortage looms. Climate change hits rock and roll as prized guitar wood shortage looms. This is the big emblazoned headline on this Scientific American article, and then in little fine print underneath it, they have flooding and a wood-boring beetle threatens supplies of storied swamp ash. Well, I thought it was climate change in your big honking title there, and not flooding and a wood-boring beetle. As a matter of fact, the wood-boring beetle is the one responsible for most of the issues with ash. The Mississippi Delta has flooded annually for thousands of years. So I don't know. It's kind of like the Nile. I mean, if the Nile floods, then God, it must be climate change. Because that didn't happen before the Common Era. That didn't happen in like the days of the pharaohs. It's man-made climate change, and we're gonna have to have carbon taxes. We'll have to have taxes on you and your children breathing. That's where we're headed. Welcome to the 2020s. And speaking of fascism and all of that stuff, we have a couple of old fogies in the guitar community, at least, trying to stand up to this kind of crap. Big round of applause to Van Morrison in particular, because he's been recording and producing these, writing and producing these anti-lockdown, anti-mask, basically anti-fascism songs for a little bit now. And he's put out, I don't know, 3 or 4 different songs that have had this same sort of theme, and now he has teamed up with Eric Clapton to do one as well. This one is also part of an anti-lockdown theme, but I thought this was kind of interesting, the way that this is covered. And once again, we're back to the way that the news is presented has a bearing on everything. It's called propaganda, folks. I don't know, how old you have to be to understand how propaganda works, but I kind of figured this out in my early 20s. So, I mean, most of my audience is well beyond their 20s, so you should be able to at least see past propaganda, most of you. Now, some of you, maybe you're still waking up, you're still in your teens, and I can forgive. Some of you people in your early 20s, I can kind of forgive it, but man, if you make it to your 30s and 40s and you still don't understand how propaganda works and at least develop a kind of immunity from it, then I pity you. This is where we're at. So if you actually go to this Los Angeles Times article, Eric Clapton joins Van Morrison's anti-lockdown crusade. Twitter is not amused. So basically they talk about music icons. Eric Clapton, Van Morrison on Friday announced the release, and this is kind of an older article. It's from November 27th, but the song is actually already out, and you can go check it out. It's on. It should be on Spotify, some other places too, at least until they take it down, I suppose. But I thought this was really interesting because they just couldn't help themselves. They could not resist taking a swipe at Eric Clapton here. So they're talking about basically this being so controversial. The idiosyncratic singer-songwriter from Northern Ireland, let's talk about Van Morrison, now 75, has faced criticism this year for emerging as a vocal critic of UK measures enacted to slow COVID-19 transmission. Well, is that why they were enacted? Because I don't agree with that. I think they were enacted to basically train us all to be good little monkeys. That's what all of this crap is really about. We're being trained to be good little monkeys. We're going to get our little pat on the head. Yeah, you can come inside. You're wearing your mask. We're all choosing our sides here. Anyway, I know what side I'm on. I'm on the side of Van Morrison and these old fogies who see through this bullshit because they've had the benefit of years. They've had the benefit of actually having gone to schools whenever they were teaching about World War II and actual fascism, and how fascism comes about, Maoism, and all of these, basically different flavors of autocracy, how they come to be, how people allow it through a slow encroachment of your rights and your freedoms. This stuff doesn't just happen overnight usually. Usually there are many, many signs along the road to tyranny or fascism that give you an idea of what's coming, and unless you're fucking paying attention or unless you're pushing back, you're not going to have anything resembling freedom for very long. It takes a lot to stick your neck out like this. And what's interesting about this article is that, the LA Times, they just could not resist. They couldn't resist taking a swipe at Clapton for the faux pas he made back in 1976. He was on stage and he said something about keeping Britain white because he was protesting like the open borders policies of Britain at the time, because they were entering the EU and just basically letting anybody and everybody flood in. And he was against it because what that does at the end of the day, it not only changes the color and inflection of your entire culture as a nation, but it also has the effect of driving up prices for everything, including real estate. If you were a native Briton at the time, it made it twice as hard to get into real estate, to own your own home. It made it twice as hard to own your own business. You know, unless you had a bunch of family members who could pull all your resources and buy the chippy shop and live upstairs, like a lot of people who are coming from, you know, outside the country, you have no way that you're going to be able to compete with that. You know, the prices of everything are just going to go up beyond what you can even reach. So, you know, he had a point at the time. He ended up apologizing for it because of the way he said it and all this stuff. But it's just interesting to me that this was one of the things that they take a swipe at him about, like something from 1976. Here's what they say. What's more, the attention generated by the announcement has put the social media focus on racist statements made by Clapton at a 1976 concert expressing support for the National Front, with many on Twitter reminding the world of his call from the stage to keep Britain white. There are reasons you would not want unfettered immigration into your country. If people don't assimilate, it's, you know, diversity can have a very disruptive effect on a country. But I think that's what a lot of these people in charge are counting on. They like disruption. They make their money from disruption. Anybody who had already owned a lot of property in Britain at the time that this influx of people from outside the country was taking place, they would have made out like bandits. But the little guy, the poor people, the middle class people, or I say middle, it's different in Britain. You have the posh and, you know, they have whatever. Middle class is actually upper class. We would call upper class. But you understand what I'm getting at. It locks people out of economic progression. But since, like I said, Clapton had apologized for saying that. He said, I sabotaged everything I got involved with. I was so ashamed of who I was. And at the time he was, you know, he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and he probably lashed out. But I'm sure, you know, he was expressing a very real thought that he had, but in very ham-fisted terms. Anyway, on to other news. Fender sales boom as guitar playing surges during the pandemic. Now, this is from November the 21st, and it's talking about Fender guitar sales having grown 17% during the pandemic and are expected to top 700 million this year. Well, what's also interesting is that if you read any of the stories from Guitar Center, like half of them will be citing lagging sales at Guitar Center as one reason for their bankruptcy. Now, I know that not to be true. It's been coming for a long time, and it just wasn't enough to pull them back out of it. But I did think that this was interesting. In spite of these sales at Fender having gone through the roof, you know, purportedly, the CEO of Fender is selling his $13.5 million LA home that actually is comprised of 2 properties, and apparently in the listing, they're saying, oh yeah, this could be a $50 million house if you just bulldozed the site and built a $50 million house. Pretty interesting to me that he's selling his residence, and it's a nice place. Can't imagine him upgrading from this, unless you wanted to bulldoze the site and build a $50 million house right there. What's interesting to me about this is that usually when CEOs of a company, they sell their home, it's because they're preparing to move to another city. They're preparing to possibly relocate. So it makes me wonder whether or not Andy Moody, the CEO, is thinking about taking another job somewhere else and leaving Fender. So I know that's speculation, but I think it's somewhat supported, the fact that he's selling his house. And apparently, according to Bloomberg, some of the creditors of Guitar Center have organized with the intent to vote against their bankruptcy plan ahead of a critical deadline, I think, which may have taken place already. I couldn't find any updated stories about this particular thing, so I'm not sure what they're referring to here, but they're talking about 20% of Guitar Center's first lien note holders are pushing back on this restructuring plan because when Guitar Center took more money from creditors recently, I think this was in the past year or so, they took some more money to basically stay afloat. And that was something at the time Moody said technically put them in default, and they shouldn't have been able to do, but somehow they did. Anyway, this 20% of their note holders, so 20% of the people they owe money to, essentially, or people to whom they owe 20% of their total debt, I guess I should say, are claiming that they shouldn't have been able to do this, because what they did in their agreement when they did that was they promised to pay those people back first. And these people are like, hey, wait a minute, we already had an agreement.
No fair.
What is this crap? So essentially that's what's going on right there. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out. So that will do it for the news. All right, now I wanted to highlight a couple of videos that I've seen in the last week or so that I thought were really noteworthy. First one was this one, and this is by Pete Thorne, and he and Dave Friedman basically go through the process of breaking down Eddie Van Halen's tone. And it's done in a way that I don't think I've seen anyone else really do it on YouTube. I mean, you have a lot of videos about breaking down Eddie Van Halen's tone. Oh, here's the gear that you get this pedal, this pedal, this pedal, this, whatever. And, line everything up and then just play through this type of guitar with your, whatever. And you're going to get close to his tone. But that's not the entirety of what this was about. This is more of like a history lesson of, the way amplifiers were at the time of Eddie Van Halen. And it's just a really good video. And I thought it was a really good balance of the tech geeky side of things and the actual playing. So it was just a cool video. Definitely go check that out. And as I'll tell you, as I told Pete in my comment, that I think this is probably one of the best guitar videos that I've seen in 2020. So definitely go check that out if you haven't seen that one yet. Also, this video I thought was really interesting. This is by the dude over at Scar My Guitar, Sean. He builds, a lot of funky guitars, a lot of really interesting shapes. He's constantly experimenting over there, I think. And with this, I think he kind of outdid himself on the experimentation side.
Okay, so it's pretty simple. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use my outline here, and we're gonna make it 16 inches. We're just gonna hollow out this board. But yeah, let's try that. Something similar to that. We'll do that one, that. Put one there, 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 and there. Maybe one there, one there. Now, it might be possible that I've done lost my ever-loving mind. Listen to that guy. We'll put a neck on it. See if we got us an acoustic guitar.
Now, what I thought was really interesting about this particular video and about his ideas that he's hashing out in this is that he is actually CNC routing an acoustic guitar top. But he's not doing it in the way that you might think. He's not like routing out the sound hole, with the router. He's doing the whole thing, and he's leaving the braces, and he's routing the braces as he routes the top. So the whole top is basically all routed out, and the braces are left behind as all one piece. So to me, that's really interesting. Now, I do have some questions as to how this will hold up long term, because if you think about it, you'll have grain running through the guitar like this, and usually if a guitar is going to split, it's going to split along one of the grain lines. And the only thing that kind of stops that when you have wild fluctuations in temperature and humidity, are the braces that kind of hold everything together and keep that from separating. But if the brace is built, it has the same grain in it that the rest of it does, it seems like maybe the braces would split themselves. So he might want to consider laminating, like coming back in and having some pieces of wood that he laminates on top of the braces that are there. And that could prevent that from happening. So that might be one thing he considers going forward. And also, I think the bracing pattern could use some fiddling. But overall, though, I think he's really onto something. And I think just the fact that he's got this whole routing thing that he's doing and leaving, routing out the whole top with the braces intact is really, I don't know, it's an innovative approach. I've never seen anything like it. Have you guys seen anything like this? I can't recall if I have, but I don't think I have. But definitely interesting. And go check out Sean's channel. He's got a lot of cool stuff. I mean, you know, if you're into the rough and tumble, just kind of let's see what we can build today. You know, let's throw something on the CNC, or let's just rough cut out some wood that we got at Home Depot and see what we can build today. You know, kind of just rough and tumble videos. Definitely check out Sean's channel. So yeah, I just wanted to play a second of this, one of these Van Morrison songs that he's come out with recently. This one is called No More Lockdowns.
No more lockdown, no more government overreach.
No more government overreach.
No more fascist bullies.
No more fascist bullies.
Disturbing our peace.
Disturbing our peace.
No more taking of our freedom.
No more taking of our freedom
And our God-given rights.
and our God-given rights.
Damn straight.
Pretending it's for our safety.
Pretending it's for our safety
When it's really to enslave.
when it's really to enslave. Isn't that the same story that it always is? They always are able to convince a percentage of the population, frankly, that have IQs, usually below average. It's for their own safety. Whatever these measures are, whatever this thing is that they're doing to curb these freedoms, it's for your own safety and your own good. I remember when, distinctly actually, I remember when the left correctly saw what George Bush was doing back in the early 2000s. You know, we had 9/11, and basically they used that as an excuse for all sorts of things that they shouldn't have been able to do. The Patriot Act, and then going into countries that didn't even attack us, and all that kind of stuff. And they predicated all of it on false fear. They sent General Powell to the UN, and he basically made the case that, Iraq is going to attack us imminently with WMD. And it turned out they didn't have any fucking WMD. We went in there, and obviously they didn't have any fucking... Everybody who had any sense about them knew that there was nothing there. Saddam Hussein had been under strict embargoes and sanctions for over a decade and a half, I think, at that point. So he didn't have shit. He didn't have a pot to piss in, let alone WMDs that had the capability of attacking the United States or any strategic outpost of ours. Utterly and absolutely ridiculous notions. And this is what we're back to at this point, if you ask me. You know, the lockdowns, the masks, it's all part of a training scheme to train us into being dutiful little slaves. It hit me the other day whenever I was going through the bank, the outside line at the bank. My bank is closed. They've closed their lobby, okay? So the lobby's closed. So already they're training us not to be able to go inside the bank. They actually got rid of their equipment to send paperwork to and from the bank. You know, the suction thing. They actually got rid of those, and now they just have these big machines outside. And guess what? The machines are touchscreen machines. What? So these machines that are supposed to save us from spreading this deadly virus around are touchscreen machines. So we drive up to the fucking thing, instead of a sensor that says, okay, somebody's here, you have to actually physically reach over and touch the screen to get the thing to operate, to do anything, to initiate a transaction with somebody. And then you're talking to a screen, a picture of someone, which is, I guess that's what we're all getting used to now. We're being trained. We're being trained to accept a completely different, brave new world here. And again, we're not going back. We're not going back. I asked them, I said, when are you guys going to reopen your damn lobby? I said, I just sat behind two elderly people in my car in this line who were trying to get up here to do a simple transaction. I'm sure they had simple transactions just as I do. And I sat forever. I sat for probably 20 minutes behind two people to do two transactions before I could get to the machine. And I'm because they're trying to figure out the technology. They're fumbling with everything. They're like, what do I press? What do I do? How do I do this? How do I deposit a check? Every little thing they have to completely relearn because they're older people. So I'm kind of in the same boat, I guess, because this was the first time I'd been up to the thing. I never go to my bank anyway, but the point is, they locked down the lobby. And it's based on what? Based on what? It's based on fake numbers, dude. It's based on falsehoods. It's based on a governor who as a Democrat wants to, I guess, destroy small businesses and consolidate everything into big corporations. I guess that's what they're up to, isn't it? That's the net effect. So what else am I supposed to think about all this? If that's not the goal, then they're really bad at producing results. Because you would think by looking at this that the goal was to consolidate power into a few multinational corporations and destroy a bunch of small businesses, make us all dependent on government because half of us lost our fucking jobs. You would think that these were the goals, right? Of this whole thing, of the reaction. You would think that killing people would be part of the goals because, they estimated that 10,000 additional children will die monthly as a result of not the virus, but the economic effects stemming from the reaction to the virus. The economic effects stemming from the reaction to the virus is going to kill 10,000 additional children worldwide per month. And, this brings to mind stuff that we've known forever. For every point you lose in gross domestic product in a nation, you lose X amount in living standards just across the board. So people are more malnourished. You have more infant mortality. You have more depression. You have more suicides. You have more drug use. You have more crime. All of this stuff goes up for every point you lose in gross domestic product. So if the reactions to the pandemic are killing off this many businesses, and the gross domestic product is doing this for all these different countries worldwide, then of course this is going to kill more people. More people are going to die of deaths of despair every year, and not just in the U.S. This is just in the U.S. 75,000 additional Americans only will die just in 2020 from not the virus, but deaths of despair. Many of them brought about by the reactions and the shutdowns and all this, the inhuman world that we're creating. You go to anywhere, go to a store, look around. There are no faces, there are no smiles, there's no interaction. There's nothing real about it. People are more insular than ever, and it's a direct result of all this. We're being dehumanized, being utterly dehumanized. To me, I feel dehumanized. I don't know about you guys, but I feel it. I mean, I've said it before, but this isn't really somewhere I want to go. This is not a world I really am particularly thrilled about. And so many of my audience are like, well, I don't come here for this. I don't come here to hear this. I don't care what you came here for. I'm just talking what I want to talk about. This is what's on my mind. If you came expecting something different, then I'm sorry.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
That's enough, Holly. That's enough, dear.
I'm
That's
awfully
just fine.
sorry.
I'm not sorry, actually. I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry!
This video's gone completely off the fucking rails. I started out with the best intentions. I start out with the best intentions on this stuff, and it just kind of goes off script. All right, dudes, that'll do it for this Shitpost Friday. I hope you've enjoyed this comeback video. I kind of lost track of how to do these and ran out of time, so I didn't get to any of the stuff I really wanted to, the viewer mail and so forth. So we'll have to do that in another video. But I hope you did enjoy this one, and hit subscribe if you did. And for now, we will see y'all later. I don't know how you, I guess you,